My daughter wants to get married and she wants to have a family.
Yeah. At what age though?
Sooner than later, probably,
Yeah.
right? But I tell her, like, that's fine. And I said, baby, I want that for you. I want you to have that life, but I also want you to have the skills to take care of yourself so you don't have to end up getting stuck in a bad relationship.
Right.
So I want her to have that, but I want her to be able to have choices for herself so she's not forced into that.
See, so what you're doing is you're creating a conflict, because what you said earlier is that, you should work things out, but then you're also giving her the advice that she should be able to take care of herself in case she gets stuck into the wrong relationship.
No, it's not.
So that's almost like giving the opt-out for divorce.
It's not in case and there's an opt-out, it's so that she doesn't jump into something bad.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, so
I just don't, I don't want her to go like, well, this guy's kind of a loser, but he says he's going to take care of me, so I guess I'll go for it. It's
Yeah.
like she could be a little bit more picky.
Yeah.
And I want her to be picky.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't she? She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
She's super smart and talented.
Is there an age range that you recommend her to date in, or do you offer any guidance there?
Like in her, what age range?
Yeah, like, looking for a future husband.
Honestly, that's a question. That's a conversation that we haven't had. The older that we get, I think the less age is factor. Meaning, like when you're 11 years old, 1 year difference is big, right? When you're 40 years old, 40 or 50, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
But so I think as you get older, that range probably matters less. But like I said, honestly, that's a conversation that we've never had.
So let's just say that she's 20, and like if she brought home
20.
a guy that's like 30 or 35, would that be a problem for you?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be the cap, like the ceiling? 25, 30, like?
Probably 25.
Yeah.
Maybe a little higher, but certainly in the 20s.
See, for me, when I
She's got a boyfriend now,
evaluate
he's 23.
that, yeah, like I wouldn't have a problem if she's 20, she brought home a 30-year-old. If the guy's squared away, he's solid, he's got a good life, he's competent, he's influential, he's, the unplugged alpha sort of guy.
I wouldn't say that. I haven't really thought about this, so you're catching me off guard here. I wouldn't say that's the single most important factor. It's a range of things.
Yeah.
If you're 30 and you're a deadbeat, right, versus 30 and you're put together and you're a good guy, right? So there's a range of factors in there. I would say.
I mean, like most younger guys, especially in their early 20s, they're kind of like going downstream, with the dead fish. They don't know really what they're doing. There are some rare exceptions, but I think on a balance of probabilities, and I operate in balance of strong
But that's almost a
probabilities.
non-starter though, because that's almost a non-starter. So for me, I believe that like your early 20s is when you put your life together.
Okay.
And I think that most people waste that most important time. And for the reason why I think it's
right. So if you want your daughter to get married, wouldn't you want her to find a guy that's already got his life together rather than putting his life together, because he's demonstrated a strong track record of success at 30 versus 23 trying to figure it out?
Yeah, I'm not saying she should get married to a 23-year-old. I'm certainly not saying that. I got married when I was 28, which is young, seemingly in today's standards. My wife was 24 at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not saying she's married to a 23-year-old, but thankfully, thank God, my biggest fear is that she goes with some deadbeat, and she's probably not going to listen to this, so it probably won't matter, but she's had so far she's had 3 boyfriends, and they've all been great people, all great guys that I think are really great choices.
Why didn't they turn into a marriage?
Well, she's in high school, right, or whatever, right? So one of her last boyfriend was, I thought he was a stud, like buff, great family, super motivated, but she's like, I'm not feeling it, whatever. They're young, right? Obviously. Right. She's going out with a pro surfer now. He's like the #1 rookie on the world tour. Like to make it to the highest level of sport, you're obviously very focused and you're on your path, right? Like I like that. Does it mean he's got everything figured out in life? No. And obviously, like, I'm not expecting him to get married in a year or two either. But like, it's for me, it's more of like, do they have the raw ingredients and are they going in the right direction? But I don't know. We're going down a whole rabbit hole there. But the question I wanted to ask though is, it sounded like maybe before we started recording that you were talking about that you didn't really even believe in marriage. Like you think most guys should not get married. They should just be in a partnership.
Yeah, for men it's not a good deal. For women it's a great deal, because it's low risk, high reward, because they're hypergamous. They're going to marry across and up on a socioeconomic scale. They're generally going to find or marry a guy that's wealthier, more successful, more influential, more competent, all those sorts of things. So for guys, it's not generally the best deal. So for most men, it's like you really have to evaluate what you're dealing with before you invite her into your life. And even then, I would encourage them to take precautionary steps. So, half the time the knot is going to untie based on the statistics today. So why not live somewhere that's friendly towards fathers? So that's another idea that you have to sort of have a conversation about, because right now on the National Parenting Organization site, they have a report card that rates all the states in the US as far as where the best place is for fathers. So if you lived in a state that's hostile, for example, you might want to move to Florida, Michigan, or even California. California's got downsides with maintenance and alimony, but when it comes to custody, it's 50-50 by default. You don't have to fight over that. So there's important decisions that you have to make when it comes to getting married, rather than let me just get married to the first girl that touches my pee-pee, which is the thought process that most guys make, because like I said earlier, men prioritize availability. So if she's responsive and likes him and wants to see him and responds when he texts her, sort of thing, for him that's great, right? But she has a longer laundry list of stuff that she's going through. So again, it's very, very different conversations that I would have with a son versus a daughter, and those are contradictory, by the way.
Yeah, they are. Obviously, I picked up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting stuff. I think back to the nature versus nurture, like obviously we've led different lives and we've come to different outcomes, and so then we see the world differently. Which is last night we had these debates about money, and I said that's what makes a market, right? We have different views on it. For me, I just see it differently. For me, it was like, why would I ever have a girl sign a prenup? Like, to me, that seems like I'm saying the marriage is doomed before it's even started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my thought process.
Yeah.
And that might be naive, but I'm also in the thought process that man, if I got divorced from my wife, I'd probably just want to give her half.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't she get half?
It's like, not always just half, and then there's also elements
or whatever
that you can write into the prenup that will govern that relationship as the knot is untied.
I think, but you had said something earlier, like with my,
because it's still a legal contract. I mean, you're okay with signing the legal contract of marriage, but you're not okay with signing a contract that prepares how the marriage might dissolve if you get out of it. It's like, if you in a
business partnership, you would put
boil
that
it down to like a business partnership or leasing a car, but it's well written in the point where this is how you're going to govern, the use of this, during the time that you have it. But if there's an end to it, this is how we untie that part, sort of thing. So I think being intentional about it, it's not unromantic. It's not promising that it's going to end, or it encourages it to the end in any sense of regard, in my opinion. I think every divorce lawyer that I've ever talked to, it's always like, look, if you're going to get married, you should have a prenup, but that's only really necessary if one of you has a lot more than the other. That's only really necessary if you have kids from a prior marriage that you want to make sure gets your stuff, rather than her kids from her prior marriage, sort of thing. So there's places and time with it, but I mean, if you've got two young kids that are in their early 20s and they're going to form a family and they have nothing to show, like they're bringing nothing to the table except for maybe a degree and a couple of bucks they have in the bank, it's not necessary at that point.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. You're a billionaire and you're marrying a girl. Like, you'd probably put that in place.
Yeah.
I get it. And so there's a lot of nuance to these things, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up, Rich. It's been certainly an interesting conversation. So maybe you can end it with a piece of advice. So for the guy, let's just talk to the men out there. Most of my audience is men. You're mid-career. You're in your 30s. Maybe you're starting to feel demasculated in a sense, midlife crisis, maybe whatever it is. You're starting to realize that maybe all the lies, the pre-programming that you've been given are not accurate. So I think a lot of people that probably watch my channel are starting to wake up to that. Mm-hmm. What type of advice do you have to give somebody to kind of like turn their lives around and move from that beta to that alpha category?
I got lots of resources on stuff like that, obviously, with all my content.
Go ahead and tell us where we can find them.
Yeah, they can start at my website. It's just RichCooper.ca. But doing the work on themselves to create the man that is going to be of use to themselves primarily, like fixing their own deficiencies, will allow them to make better choices and have better options when it comes to women, how they're going to live their life, how they're going to navigate it, how money's going to move for them. So unplugging from the comfort and lies that society sells is really the first step. And speaking to your audience and say follow you, I think that you're a good model for that, because the way that you've sort of structured your life, like you are the natural unplugged alpha, right? Like the way that you live, the way that you work, the way that you travel, your competency skills, your level of influence. I think you're a great model for that. So just do what Mark does.
Cool. All right, Rich, thanks so much.
Yeah, man. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here. And pinned down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.